All right, let's get into this with CBS News Elections Director Anthony Salvanto. He's here with us in New York, and USA Today Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page is in our Washington newsroom. Susan, to you first. With all of the talk of a brokered convention, has now Donald Trump taken power away from the Republican Party?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The people who think they were in charge of the Republican Party have had no success at all in stemming his remarkable rise this year. He's the only candidate with any possibility, I think, of getting the 1237 convention delegates that you need to be guaranteed nomination. And what I think he's doing now with this tough rhetoric is saying is, if I get very close but don't quite get over the finish line, you better not try to take this nomination away from me.
So after Tuesday's primary, though, Susan, where Trump dominated, Cruz shut out, Kasich won his home state. So is it Cruz or is it Kasich now that is the best alternative to beat Trump?
Yeah, you know, I think that Kasich has a very steep hill to climb. If Kasich won every single convention delegate who has not yet been chosen, he still wouldn't have a majority of convention delegates. Cruz has done better. He's defeated Donald Trump in more states. He still has a pretty steep road, but he definitely has there's definitely a path, especially if you could get one-on-one with Donald Trump. But the fact that Kasich won Ohio in a way that helps Trump, it means Kasich stays in the race. And it means that Ted Cruz is denied that one-on-one contest that he so wants to have.
Susan, before I turn to Anthony and some of the math here, do you expect Ted Cruz to turn his attention to John Kasich and really go after him? He's already suggesting that Kasich drop out of the race.
Yeah, you know, I think he needs Kasich to get out of the way. And one thing that helps him is that Kasich does not have a lot of states coming up that will be strong potential states for him. You know, he after Ohio, he went to Pennsylvania to campaign. Well, Pennsylvania doesn't vote for another month. There are a lot of contests between now and then. So I think it's going to be hard to actually push Kasich out of the race. But Cruz wants people to think of him as the sole remaining credible alternative to Donald Trump.
All right, Anthony. So look into your tea bags here. What's the best way to solve this problem? I mean, how do you defeat Trump?
You get more votes than he does. And
how do you do that?
No, that's a serious answer.
Yeah.
And look, to this point, no one's been able to do that. And so these folks who are saying, oh, we can try to stop Trump at the convention, in order to get Trump, in order to stop him, somebody's got to start beating him in some of these states. And so far, we just haven't seen that. And that's one of the things, even as we churn through all of the delegate math, you know, from here forward, can Trump get to that magic number, that 1237? Well, look, historically, the front runner ends up getting the nomination and clinching in the primaries because from here, the delegates are allocated in a way that favors the front runner. So if Donald Trump, all he has to do is keep on winning the kinds of voters he's been winning, the kinds of places that he's been winning, and he is on a trajectory to get it. Now, he may not get it until late May, he may not get it until early June, you know, continuing to fuel some of this speculation. But clearly, from a math standpoint, he is on pace to clinch outright.
So even if the Republican Party refuses to unite behind Donald Trump, if he has the delegates, not only would it be a smack in the face of the American people who throughout this primary season have given the votes to Donald Trump, it would be very, very hard for them to make a case that even though he has the math in his favor, that there should be somebody else who's their nominee.
Well, look, the rules say that whoever has the majority of delegates heading in on that first convention vote gets the nomination. And I don't think anybody that I've heard feels that that rule is subject to change. The debate and discussion here is what happens should Donald Trump fall short? Suppose some of his opponents start taking some of these states suddenly in the coming months through May and even into early June. So what if he falls short but still has more than anyone else? And that's the speculative conversation that started to drive some of the comments that you're already seeing out there, the comments from Trump and the comments from others. What does the convention do then? And what the rules say there is that that first ballot would then not pick a nominee, and then all bets are off. Each of the states has various rules for how it could then allocate its delegates and what its delegates could do. But remember what the word delegate means. The people of the state have delegated this vote and this authority to go to the convention and pick a nominee to these people. And what they do from there, that's anybody's guess.
Susan, before I let you go, the question as to whether or not Donald Trump can make a successful run in the general without the full support of his party, what is your reporting telling you? In other words, can he you hear this number all the time. His support is capped at 35 or 36%. When it comes to the general, he's going to get creamed by whoever the Democratic nominee is. Is that what your reporting is telling you?
Well, I think that our analysis of Donald Trump has mostly been wrong up to now, so I'm not sure why we continue to give opinions. But I do think Donald Trump has some big challenges in a diverse American electorate. He is winning the support. His support is almost entirely white. It's predominantly male. A lot of it is working class. He's attracted some voters to the Republican Party who haven't been there before. But when he goes to the general election, you're going to have more than 10% Hispanic voters. You're going to have even more than that of African-American voters. You're going to have a lot of millennial voters who have been very resistant to Trump's appeal. So I think the challenges for Donald Trump are pretty apparent when you get to that larger electorate in November.
Anthony, I'm just curious, though, as we move forward from here, we're all talking about the numbers and whatnot. In your opinion, is it easier for both Cruz and Kasich to remain in the race, or should one of them drop out for the best scenario to beat Trump?
There are states ahead. Each of those candidates is going to try to cherry pick where they think they can do well. So Cruz, I think, clearly would have an inside track in places in the Mountain West, for example, where he's already done well. Places like Montana, places like South Dakota. Those are winner-take-all states, so he can still stay in and boost his delegate total there. I think Kasich is going to look at places like Wisconsin, certainly maybe Pennsylvania, places that are similar to Ohio in that respect, and say, well, if I did well in Ohio, here's a place where I can find some of the same kinds of voters and see if I can transfer my appeal over. Now, I think that's a challenge for him, given that Ohio was his home state, and he'd have to go in and try to convince the voters of Pennsylvania that look at what I did Ohio and I can do it here. But having said that, each of those candidates has places on the map where it looks similar to how they've already done, and I think that's what will fuel them going forward.
All right, to be continued. Anthony Salvanto and Susan Page, we thank you both.
Thank you.